If you're JD Beach, you're one happy camper. With a win streak extended to 5 and his total to 8, he's shredding the competition. But a night of data crunching and solution generating has forced the competition to step up their game. It's go time for the Supersport pre-race show from Northern California, right now on beIN Sports. Welcome, everyone, to the Cycle Gear Championship of Sonoma. It's the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship, round 7 of 10 for 2018. Welcome to Sonoma Raceway in Sonoma, California. I'm Craig White, sitting alongside Jason Pridmore, who's two-time AMA National Champion, two-time World Endurance Champion. And Jason, we are going to be treated to a great day of racing here at Sonoma Raceway under perfect California conditions.
Yeah, look at that blue sky. We got some action out on the track right now, some old Superbike vintage bikes, which is great. You can see track temperature outside is 105, temperature outside is 81. It's a perfect day. Perfect. No real wind to speak of right now, which is nice. And we had some blustery conditions yesterday, not quite as bad today. And I agree with you, Greg. We're going to have some good racing.
Well, it's a beautiful day outside, and of course, we are not the only two that are working the microphone this weekend for you. Hannah Lope is the third member of our broadcast team, and Hannah's down there in the pit area. Hey, Hannah, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Today is one of those days that I do not envy you for being up in the booth because it is beautiful out right now. A little less windy than yesterday, like you guys mentioned, but perfect temperatures. I'm really excited to see what happens today. Hayden Gillum was riding really, really well and was putting a lot of pressure on JD. So I think the question is today if he'll be able to come out on top. What do you guys think?
Well, I think he definitely got the best start he could get yesterday, Greg. That's the best start we've seen from Hayden all year long. I'm sure him and his crew made some changes overnight. And I agree with you, Hannah. He put a lot of pressure on him. But JD just seems to have that little bit extra edge. I think JD's riding for a lot right now. He's riding for the rest of his career, really. He wants to jump up to Superbike, and I think he's trying to show everybody right now in the paddock.
Speaking of Superbike, a rider who's in the Superbike field, if you didn't get to see the Motul Superbike class yesterday, is Westby Racing's Matthew Scholtz. And Scholtz had a bit of he had two crashes in basically a lap and a quarter. So we wanted to get a chance to talk to Matthew and find out what happened with him in the race yesterday.
I tried to make a pass. My jump off the line was terrible, like it has been all season long. That's one of my weakest points. And always the first couple of laps I've been making some pretty serious moves, and it was bound to catch me out sometime. It was just unfortunate that it did now. I'm really sorry to the Yomlu Westby guys that gave me a brilliant motorcycle. Throughout the Friday practice and Saturday morning, we really showed that we had the pace to be competing for the podium spot, and it was just very unfortunate to crash in the first lap out. It was completely my fault. I'm a jackass, but what can I say? Sorry. We'll be back for the second race, and I'm confident that we should be battling for the podium spot.
Well, what can you say, Greg? It's just a rider admitting that he made a couple mistakes, and that's where racing is such a team thing because mechanics can make mistakes, riders can make mistakes, but those guys are a tight-knit group, and we know what he's capable of doing. And I expect more from him today, obviously. But it goes again to show you got to get a good start. It puts so much more pressure on you if you get that bad launch or bad start and put yourself behind the 8 ball early.
Yeah, especially at a place like this where it's difficult to pass. Well, transitioning back into the Supersport class, if you're looking at MotoAmerica and you want to come race, and it really doesn't matter what your gender is because men and women race together. So we do a little piece from time to time that we call Gals on the Grid. Take a look at this one. Introduce you to Caroline Olsen.
Hey guys, I'm Hannah Lope and I am here with Supersport 600 rider Caroline Olsen. Caroline, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you got involved in motorcycle racing and road racing in general?
Yeah. When I was 16, I was originally a horse girl, so I took my 125 driver's license to get back and forth to the stable a lot quicker. But I started speeding a lot. I had an urge to go fast, and I got in trouble with the police.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Now, how did you make the transition from being in Norway and coming over to the United States and racing?
My old coach back in Norway, he's like, well, I've raced Daytona and I knew a guy named Jason Pridmore who has a road racing school in America, and I'd see if I can get in contact with him. One thing led to another, and within like 2 weeks of me talking to him, I had already booked my tickets to come and test with Barry Gilson and the Celtic team back in 2013, and I'm like, wow, this is what I'm gonna do. This is my dream. So I was so excited.
Jason, Caroline actually won a championship in Supersport in Norway, didn't she?
Yeah, she won a couple Norwegian Supersport championships, and the guy that she talked about there, Torvald Seiby, was a friend of mine that used to come to Daytona. Didn't know him before. He was in the garage next to us, and him and a bunch of his Norwegian friends came over and just all kind of became friends, and my crew chief helped them out. And, man, 15 years later, 20 years later, he contacted me, said there's a young lady over here that needs to get out of here. She needs to go find something else to do somewhere else, and that's how it started.
And she's had a couple points paying positions so far this season. All right, well, Dunlop is this tire supplier for MotoAmerica, and of course, we want to introduce you to more of what Dunlop has going on. Check this out. About Dunlop's Hyper Sport tires, you think about one name, Sport Max.
The name Sport Max is what we call a crown name for the family of tires. For us, it represents the ultimate performance for sport bikes. As we see either European manufacturers or Japanese manufacturers develop bikes on the racetrack, all those bikes are going to be in the Sport Max family. The Q4 will be our crown tire. It'll be our ultimate performance track day tire. We're very happy to be able to offer a tire that has the kind of technology that we've been able to learn and build from our involvement with MotoAmerica. But we still have our Q3 Plus tire. Make no mistake about it, if you're doing the occasional track day, it's a very, very capable product. So that's our middle of the road tire. People that are doing more commuting or touring on sport bikes or budget minded, we have our GPR 300. We've got our Q4 that is an amazing track day performer. Q3 Plus for the majority of the consumers, and for the budget minded consumer, we've got the GPR 300.
The pre-race show is presented by Dunlop. Dunlop motorcycle tires build the official MotoAmerica race tire right here in the USA. We're back at Sonoma Raceway, Sonoma, California for the Cycle Gear Championship of Sonoma, where we had already a Supersport and Motul Superbike class race, and wanted to kind of take you back in time to Cam Peterson. During the race yesterday, Broster Chicken Honda's Cameron Peterson came in, and it looked like he was pretty injured, and we wanted to give you a little bit of an update on his condition and what happened.
Well, after an unbelievable start and a great first half of the race, he was feeling pretty confident. Actually tucked the front and the fast left coming down the S's. Did a Marquez style, saved the thing, got it down on his knee and his elbow and saved it. But when he got it over there, it kind of grabbed his foot and in a weird scenario kind of actually shoved his foot up into the top of the swing arm underneath the chain. And it got into, luckily it got into the chain guard, and it really looked really, really bad and really scary when he came in. Obviously he was in a lot of pain. Not as bad as we feared it was. So, he's like, I was for sure going to make a couple moves on Lewis. He thought he had something for Jake, and that's pretty awesome. Jake's been on the podium, and for us to finally get our bike, to where we can be there, and he had the confidence. So, feeling just gutted for him. I really just want to cry for the guy.
For Cam Peterson, he severed 2 tendons. He's actually going to go, I think, down south to Dr. Bryan and have some surgery done on that. We expect him to be back before the season is over, Jay.
Dr. Bryan's amazing because he's helped so many riders and so many racers, and he's a motorcyclist. So it's great that Cameron's in good hands, and just hope he gets back as quickly as he can. He was riding amazing.
All right, we're going to take a break here on beIN Sports. We're coming right back, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the MotoAmerica Road Race Championship, Cycle Gear Championship of Sonoma. as we are preparing for the Supersport race. Jason, let's take a look at the track map. 2.5 miles of pure up and down fun.
Yeah, it is a roller coaster for sure, Greg. As you see, start finish line, turn 1, kind of a chicane type turn 1 up a big steep hill into turn 2. Out of turn 2, a little bit off camber, down into 3A, off camber again as you crest over the top of that hill. Brake hard down into turn 4. Turn we don't talk about enough probably. Turn 5, very fast up over into the carousel. Want to make sure your bike handles great through the carousel. You're a lot of lean angle for a lot of time. Down to our first real heavy braking area. Turn 7, see some passing down there in and through the S's down to turn 9, another major passing area for us. Turn 10 behind the grandstands until turn 11, which is really our last major passing opportunity. I always like corners that come to the end of a lap like that, and we have a chance to see some action right at the end of the lap. Short run to the start-finish line. It's a track that you kind of either love or hate, Greg. It's a very technical track, very physical, and there's some action from yesterday. You can see these 3 guys, Hayden Gillum, JD Beach, and Valentine DeBees. I'm expecting a lot of this kind of action again. What we saw yesterday, Gillum got off to the best start he's had, and he was able to just get up front with these guys.
Valentin DeBees, of course, on the M4 X-Star Suzuki. Since coming back to racing, he missed those first couple, has been actually on fire. I mean, he hasn't finished anything below second place since he was back with a race win. But JD Beach was too much, so it kind of came down to these 2 right here, and Valentin DeBees had his way. But JD Beach, well, he had a race about halfway, and then he just put his head down, Jay.
It just looked like he controlled everything he needed to control, Greg. When he was behind, he wasn't worried about things. You can see him and his friend Hayden here. They gave each other room on that lap. It was great. A couple laps later, it was a little bit different, even to the point where JD said that Hayden just got back from doing some dirt tracking and did a little dirt track move on him. But JD's just got things in control right now. Here he is on his warm-up lap right now, actually his sighting lap going through turn 7. But he just has got so much confidence in that bike and in that team, and now he's just built up this gigantic points lead. It frees you up. When you have that big of a points lead, it frees you up, and you just go out there and try to win every race at that point.
All right, we'll take a commercial break. The points lead Jason's talking about, 91 points with 175 points still available this season. We'll take the break. When we come back, more from Sonoma Raceway. MotoAmerica is presented by Dunlop. Dunlop motorcycle tires build the official MotoAmerica race tire right here in the USA. And powered by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll. With the Supersport race just around the corner, we thought we would talk to Jason Pridmore and get his idea about what he thinks the keys to the race are. Jason, so for this Supersport race, we have 19 laps scheduled, and what we saw yesterday was basically a race till halfway. So now what are you thinking the keys to the race are?
Well, looking at it, Greg, just from what we saw yesterday, the 3 things that I noticed today, GD riding free. I mean, really at this stage, he's got such a big points lead, like I said before the commercial break. He can really just go out and let it ride and let it go. He can try to win every race. He knows he could throw away a couple races and still have a points lead. He's got such a great team around him, a lot of confidence. It's a great position to be in for him. So that was really my first key to the race. I think the second key for me was looking at what DeBees and Hayden are going to do to change their strategies. We heard Valentin yesterday say that it took him a little while to try to get by Hayden, and at the end he felt like he had the pace to try to close back up on JD. So we're going to have to see how these 2 guys might change their strategies a little bit in order to do something with them. And the last one I put is the rest of. What are we going to see out of Bryce Prince today? Bryce ran off the track early, still ran some very competitive laps. We saw Richie Escalante run the fastest lap of his race personally on the last lap of the race. We got Corey West in that fight as well. We got Braden Orton. He had an accident yesterday. He's back up. He hurt his ankle. He came up and saw us and talked to us a little bit. One of these guys are going to try to step up and run with these guys. Yesterday it looked like Bryce had the opportunity to do it, but he just made a mistake in turn 1.
Looks like Hayden Gillum knows exactly where the camera is as he was motioning to us. And make sure you check us out on all of our social media. On Twitter, it's @VNMotor. On the Facebook, @VNMotor. On the Instagram, @VNMotor. Follow us all the time so you get some latest updates, information on what's happening on BN Sports Motor and about your favorite series in the world, MotoAmerica. So we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, Supersport race is coming at you pretty quickly. So hang tight. We're back to Sonoma Raceway as we await the race start for Supersport after they've done their exciting lap. Now, Jason, taking a look at the Sonoma Raceway, there's so many different lines and different things that you can do, and with the Supersport race and the Motul Superbike race looming,
Yep.
wanted to take a look at a bit of a compare of something that we noticed yesterday.
Yeah, this is looking at Cameron and Josh, and if you look at the beginning of that shot, Cameron gets out of turn 7 a little bit tighter, and you can see the way the bikes work. We took some of this from practice this morning, and if you look at the stability of both bikes, it's just the difference in the tenths or 2 tenths, because Josh Herron rode amazing yesterday to finish second, but if you look at the simplicity that some of the stuff that Cameron does and how easy his bike works, look at both guys are basically in the same spot on the bike. Cameron's a little bit more upright than Josh is as far as getting off the inside of the bike, but that's just a trait between two riders. Neither one is wrong. Both of them are right. But what I really started to notice is just the gaps that Cameron is able to use up a little less track on some of his exits, but still be able to get the drive. So he's able to get those tenths here, 2 tenths there, 3, whatever it is. But more importantly, even coming down through the S's, Josh was talking about yesterday about how he wanted to get his bike a little bit more stable and some things they're going to work on. It's true, because Cameron's bike just doesn't do as much moving around, and if that bike can just keep going forward, it's a big deal for him.
We'll be looking for all that movement in Supersport race, which is coming up relatively soon, so hang tight here on beIN Sports as we're getting closer and closer to this start. Welcome back to the Cycle Gear Championship of Sonoma as we await the race start for Supersport, race number 2 in this one. And we have a full grid of racers, but a couple of them, unfortunately, not in this one. Jason, notable, number 52, Nolan Lampkin won't make the start. I think he
had a bad weekend.
I think he hurt his pinky on his left hand. Anthony Mazziato, unfortunately, we heard a little bit of a head injury for him, so he's not going to be starting either.
Yeah, and I've really been impressed with Anthony all year, and said how little he's thrown it down the deck. He really hasn't, and this weekend he's had a couple, and yesterday sounds like he hit his head pretty good, so they're just going to let him rest out this race, and hopefully he'll be back in action at Pittsburgh.
All right, so the start of this race is getting ever closer. Scheduled for 19 laps, and our pole sitter is Valentin DeBees. And Valentin able to do a 137.515 pole position there. Real close, it was Hayden Gillum at a 137.546. And then J.D. Beach rounding out row number 1. Richie Escalante, Braden Ort, who we talked about with that injured foot, going to be starting there in the 5th spot. And then Bryce Prince.
Yeah, Bryce, we'll see what he did from yesterday. We'll see if he can match that pace again. Corey West made some changes overnight. Nick McFadden, Jason Aguilar outside row 3. Then we got Michael Gilbert, Ashton Yates, Miles Thornton. Rounding out that 4th row, Wyatt Ferris, Lucas Silver, Daytona Anderson. Back to row 6, JC Camacho, Carolina Olsen, and Edgar Zaragoza. Fernando Silva, Nolan isn't obviously in this race. Robert Pierce outside row 7. Andrew Artola, Luke Luciano, and Jarrett Hosseini in row 8. And that's going to round out our grid. Yesterday, we went back to row 9, but like you said, Greg, we're missing a couple guys. So it's going to be interesting to see what old Valentin does today. I think he feels like he's got to try to do something. I know he's always happy to be on the podium for him and his team, but I know he's going to want to try to win a couple of these races. And this seems like it would be a great track that would suit him to do just that.
And don't forget that there's added pressure on a rider like Valentin DeBees, J.D. Beach, because that factory superbike slot in Yoshimura is open at the moment because of the Roger Hayden retirement. He, of course, is going to race to the end of the season, but there is some pressure there and a lot of conversation on who's going to take that slot. Some names being brought up are Valentin DeBees, J.D. Beach, of course, Jake Lewis in the mix, as well as Matthew Scholtz in the superbike class. Now, Jason, I was able to talk to Hayden Gillum's team, and one of the things they were talking about with Hayden was that about halfway through the race yesterday, he started to lose some feel in the front end, started to actually have some front end problems. They felt like they actually made the motorcycle a little bit too soft. They were trying to keep it off the bottom of the forks, meaning that if you get on the brakes in the very hard sections, they don't want it to bottom out too much, and that made it too stiff right in the middle of the corners for him. So they've made some adjustments to the front end of that motorcycle to give Hayden Gillum not only more feel, but to allow him to have more feel through the race. So we'll see if they're able to make that change, and if Hayden can get at least a decent start.
Man, he got a great start yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure him and all the ridiculous guys were high-fiving when they saw the start Hayden got yesterday compared to a couple that he's got this year. So
they've been working a lot on the starts.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, and you could see it. And they've got him a bike that he's very comfortable on, which is nice. The longevity of the race would be great to be able to see him hold that pace a little bit longer and do something at the end. But we know how bad he wants to win. You could tell it in his interviews after the races when he doesn't win. And yesterday I saw the frustration. Even when he crossed the line, I could see him kind of bumming out a little bit. And but he did the good thing yesterday. He got off the line. He made his race easier from the start than he has in other races this year. So hopefully he can do that same thing again.
We've had 3 race winners this season in Supersport. JD Beach, of course, has 8 to his credit. This rider, Valentin DeBees, with 1. And Hayden Gillum with 1 as well. But for Hayden, that was the 2nd race of the year. That was back at Road Atlanta in race number 2. So he's hungry for another one. The question is, with a 5-race win streak, can anyone dethrone the number 95 JD Beach? So the front of the grid is full, and we can see all riders are in place as the safety vehicle comes up to the back. It's time to get this thing going. Race number 2 in Supersport here at Sonoma Raceway. Red lights go on and off. Here we go.
All right, it's the first 3 guys all got off together again, so it's a good start for our front row. As they head up this hill, it's going to be JD, it looks like, leading up the hill. Hayden's trying to do something up the inside, but it's going to be DeBees falling into 2nd there. Hayden Gillum 3rd. Looks like Escalante got the start he needed.
Oh, he's dangerous too.
And he turned in his fastest lap of the race personally yesterday, like I said at the beginning of our show at the end. So he might be the guy today to try to take it to these guys. Ort back there just behind him. It looks like Prince is in 6th. He's in 6th. So good start from Braden Ort, considering he's coming back from a little bit of an injury. But look at DeBees going to work already, trying to look for a way down the inside as they come up into the carousel. JD Beach going to lead him through there on the first lap.
JD a little upset though, coming down through the carousel. Gets it squared up though and gets another 1 or 2 bike lengths advantage coming out of there. On the brakes they go. You can see Escalante hanging right on the back of Hayden Gillum. Escalante on that Quicksilver Lexington Hudson Motorcycles R6 out of Mexico City, Mexico.
Bryce Prince forced his way through to get up to 5th. It looked like Corey West was having a look at Ort also. But right now, Escalante's doing his best to try to run with these 4 guys. And you know, Greg, I've said it in other telecasts. If you can just see the pace, if you can just see that pace once or twice, it is such a big advantage for you. And right now, Escalante is getting a chance to see that.
Braden Ort, number 30, on that red and white tuned racing machine, told us that his ankle, his foot, especially the outside of his foot's hurt, and it really kills him coming down the carousel. It's the right foot, but because of the force of the carousel, it pushes his foot inside up to the edge of his boot, on the right side of the boot. And so Braden Ort, right now racing in pain. He was trying to find a couple Advil before this race.
Yeah, he came up to our booth, didn't he? And he was talking to us about just getting some Advil or some Aleve into him and trying to get it to where he could feel comfortable. I mean,
Hayden Gillum doesn't have the pace at the moment that he had yesterday, Jason.
Yeah, it looks like he's just struggling. But these guys went 37.7 on the opening lap. Now it's a little bit falsified only because they don't go through that chicane on the first lap. So that's why the lap is a little bit faster here than it would be at other tracks. The turn 1's a little bit different. But you're exactly right, Greg. Right off the bat, right now, it looks like these 2 guys have just got a little bit of pace. But we'll see. Hayden's really good at fighting in there.
All right, so JD Beach leads the way, the number 95 in the Monster Energy Yamaha Extended Services Graves Yamaha. Right behind him, M4X Star Suzuki's Valentin DeBees, the Frenchman, who had to miss the first couple rounds of race action, back in the mix and doing a fantastic job for his M4X Star Suzuki team. JD Beach under a heap of pressure. There's Hayden, so it's kind of that accordion effect that we've seen here at Sonoma Raceway. Going back and forth. Now it looks like Hayden might have found a bit of rhythm as he started to put some distance between himself and the 54 of Richie Escalante.
Yeah, and look at Hayden. Hayden's just done a really good third split. Look at Valentin's bike chattering as it comes into that last corner, but Gillum's done a really good third split to get himself back up into that mix with these two guys. As they come across the line, 37.5, 37.4 for Gillum as they come across the line, 37.9 for Escalante. That would be his fastest lap of the weekend. So he's trying hard right now to stick on the back of those leading four. 37.8 also for Bryce Prince. So already we got 5 guys into the 37s.
Over the hill, out of turn 3. This is turn 4. Downhill keeps going down until it flattens out here 5, and then you're going to start heading up and over the crest of this hill.
Look how much pace he has coming up over the top. It is such a big commitment because the tighter you go in there, there's some pretty heavy bumps. But look at him, Greg. He's still trying to work that inside, and that's going to allow Gillum to even close up on these guys a little bit. But Valentin's bike works really well up into the carousel.
He had a lot of body movement mid-corner of that carousel as well.
Yeah, he was really trying to find his way through.
So now we have these 3 breaking free of Escalante, who's kind of caught in no man's land at the moment with Bryce Prince, Jason Aguilar, and Corey West behind him.
And there you go. Hayden's got back on the back of him. Now, if Hayden can somehow just kind of stay with these guys, take a little bit of a breather, watch what goes on. Because I think that DeBees is going to try to work on JD a lot more today than he did yesterday. They come through fast turn 10, and it's going to be, look how quick JD's going down to the inside of turn 11. But look how he can get it turned. Little different lines on the exits. Not really going to cost JD that much, though.
Valentin DeBees. See, they just start gapping Hayden there, so.
Yeah, they're a little bit quicker through that little area there, aren't they, Greg? For sure.
Number 45 in the pits, that's Fernando Silva on the ART Performance machine out of Miami, Florida. So he's in the pits, so it looks like for the moment his race is done. See if they can get that sorted and get him back out. There's a good look at Rick Racing's Hayden Gillum. Hayden right now sitting second in points, but 91 adrift of the man leading this race, JD Beach.
You know, the thing too you got to think about later, and there's Escalante is still kind of sitting there. 37 again for Richie Escalante on the back. Jason Aguilar also now in the 37th, our 6th place rider. So all the riders that you see kind of in this front group right now are all in the 37s. And Escalante always seems like he gets better the more laps go in.
Yeah.
And he's not letting these guys just disappear. This is going to be a big confidence boost for this young rider to be able to see those 3 guys still kind of in front of him and not really pulling away, and he looks comfortable doing it.
Escalante already this season with a podium finish. Escalante had a 3rd place finish, round number 1, or race number 1 at VIR. That was all the way back in March. So Escalante, no stranger to Supersport podiums, and if he continues to get faster and faster as this race wears on, then Hayden Gillum could come under fire from the Mexican.
Yep, he's still trying to get there. And just behind all those guys, you got Corey West back there. He's fighting Braden, so a lot of fighting going, but Gillum's just got to sit comfortable and get close enough to these guys, because when they start to engage with each other, which they will here soon, Valentin looks very, very hungry right now, like he's trying some stuff, but I really like what I see from JD. He's really protecting all the spots, straight line from turn 1 right up to turn 2. It's going to make it hard for Valentin to go underneath him in spots like that. The place where he looks really good, Greg, is where we're headed down right now. We're going down into turn 4, and then what's going to end up happening is these guys go through fast turn 5, and DeBees is really good through here. Not close enough this time. But he gets a great drive, and then his bike looks good down in and through the carousel as well.
My question for JD Beach right now is that turn 11 situation, because he looks like the last couple laps he's gotten in there, I don't know, hot, but he certainly comes out very wide.
Yep.
And that's a place that Valentin DeBees could attack him, and if JD doesn't have it nice and tidy or doesn't have the bike to work down there, it could leave him vulnerable to a pass and possibly finishing second in this race.
Yeah, but you know what? What he does is the way he enters that corner, he gains time on the entry, gets the bike stopped, and gets the bike back up off the edge of the tire. Corey West has gone down. I'm looking to see where that is. That looks like, Greg, that looks like turn 5? I mean, that's fast. That's where he's actually tipped off. That's a big crash for Corey. And that's speculation as far as what turn he was actually in. It's in our sector 3 area.
Hopefully he's okay. Looked like he might have been holding his hand a little bit there.
It did look like he was holding something there, didn't
hard
it?
to see through the fence. All right, this is the corner here. So, yeah, JD got in there really well that time. He just takes a wider exit.
Yeah, but it doesn't hurt him because you can only go so fast through a slow corner. So he gets the bike, he gets in there a little tighter, and there's Corey there. And let's have a look. Yeah, that's definitely the top half of the circuit. So I think that's turn 5. And he's up and he's walking around, which is a good sign.
We had a chance to talk to Corey earlier, too, and they were able to make some changes to the bike, and he was pretty enthused about it. But unfortunately, Corey West, for race fans, TSC racing rider, out of this one. To the front, JD Beach, Valentin Abiz, Hayden Gillum. So that's 95, 53, and 69. See if we can see Escalante back in the picture. So they're really starting to drop Richie at the moment. They have JD Beach has 3.2 over Richie. He's going to be falling into the clutches of Bryce Prince back there if he doesn't pick up the pace.
He's still, what's he got over him? 1.6. So yeah,
1.6.
We've seen this a lot too this year, where he can kind of yo-yo back and forth. You can see he's a little bit wider in the middle of that, and JD's bike getting a little out of shape. So we're 6 laps in. They're kind of tires will start to come into play probably in the next lap or two, Greg. Right now the lap times are still in 37s, 37.5 that last lap, and Gillum is drawn right up on the back of these two guys again. Here we go. Watch JD's bike get completely out, just moving around a lot, and that's why I was talking about. You're going to start seeing the tires start to come into play here as we go. Let's see what these times are when they come through. 38.2. So now they're back in the 8s as JD. 37s for Gillum and Hayden. Escalante now in the high 38s. So his pace has really dropped off compared to where we were earlier.
And JB, this is a perfect day, really. I mean, you're talking like low 80s. It's a day where you're feeling good. I mean, it's a physically demanding racetrack, but you're pushing really hard. Sometimes in these perfect conditions, you can forget about managing the tire and just go push forward and find yourself in trouble towards the end of the race.
Yep. No, and that's what these guys are doing right now. The pace obviously is very fast still at the front. Fastest second split for Valentin Abiz.
JD looking smooth, so it's Beach, Abiz, Gillum, Escalante and Prince, Aguilar, Braden Orr, Nick McFadden, Gilbert, Miles Thornton.
Yeah, these guys. Coming up over the top of this hill here. Now we're looking down as they break deep again into turn 9. All very close.
13 laps to go in this one. You can hear JD Beach getting deep into that corner and that rear wheel skidding around. All right, Valentin Abiz pit board. That tells him obviously he's in P2 and that it's just 0.2 of a second back to Hayden Gillum.
Look at now there's a gap, so you got to wonder if something happened there out of turn 1 between Beach and Abiz. Oh, big slide there for JD Beach as he goes through turn 5. He knows that Abiz is close to him there as far as speed goes, and that time, that's a turn you really got to get opened up, and that's what we saw Corey West tip over earlier. And that's going to be the first big sign for him as they both drop down into the mid 37s again, 37.5, 37.6, and 37.5 for Gillum. So look at this, Greg. They're going through turn 5. And JD likes to keep the bike over to the right just a little bit more there. And that bike just bucked up out of protest on him as they come down now through the S's. They've opened up a big gap over 4th, obviously. Gillum's still just sitting there waiting as JD's out of shape again going into turn 9.
Could be an indication for JD that his tire's starting to wear off, just like you're talking about, Jason. That time of the race, 12 laps to go in this one. That would not be a good sign. But JD's front tire is working great for him at this time.
See the gap he pulls on him going into that turn? He goes in there a little bit different. This time it looks like Hayden's lost a lot of time in the last sector. 27.7 to 28.2, so that's that half a second. There's Richie Escalante doing a good job. Bryce Prince still trying to chase him down from behind. And behind them, Jason Aguilar running 6th, and we got Braden Ort running 7th behind Aguilar. So Bryce Prince right now on the Let's Ride Track Days sponsorship for the weekend that he's got here at Sonoma, trying to match what he did yesterday, doing his best trying to get back up to the back of Escalante as they come up over turn 4 there, or turn 3A down into turn 4. These guys are running sort of mid-38s right now. The guys at the front just dropped back down into the mid-37s.
It's kind of no man's land right now, right? You just don't have someone that you can dice it up with and just a carrot in front of you.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. I think that the big thing now, there you get a good look at Jason Aguilar. He's doing his best. This is a good ride from Jason. We missed him at the second race, or actually we missed him the whole weekend in Utah. Had a bit of an off in a training accident prior to Utah and hit his head. So here you can see Escalante coming down through the S's. And you know, when you're like the guy battling for 4th and you see these 3 guys, your goal week in to week out is to try to get closer to these 3, Greg. You're trying your best to trim that gap down. So what this team can do at the end of the day is they can go look at how far behind was Richie yesterday and how far behind will he be today, and they can really get something from that. Yesterday he was coming up on the back of Bryce Prince right at the end of that race, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
And he ran 38.7, I believe, on his last lap of the race yesterday, which was his quickest, and today he's already run 37.8. So that team went to work overnight and found something for him to help him get going a little bit faster.
So far in this race, fastest lap of the race, credited to Hayden Gillum at 1:37.44, but last time by the stripe, a 38 flat for this guy, 37.9 for the 2 riders behind him. So obviously, same pace. You can see that right there on your screen, the lap times that we're talking about. So Hayden Gillum, he needs to make up a couple tenths of a second to stay in tow, or this one's going to be over in terms of the possibility for a race win for the Kentucky rider. JD Beach, nice little slide.
Yep. JD's used to that. But
he is, and he's a dirt tracker. He loves that left-hand slide.
Not even going to affect him. Won't even think about that.
Yeah, the only thing we have to think about is if Valentin doesn't have that problem, could it affect his drive as we get, 9.5 more laps on that rear tire?
Yep, no, exactly right.
Fun up and down part of the racetrack to the chicane. Taking a look at the attitude of JD's bike. You can see when he initially snatches that brake lever, just a little pop of the rear wheel up in the air, but very controlled. Now here's where we come to a section where there's 2 completely different lines as JD gets on the binders, heads straight for the apex. That's a great line for him to block.
It's very like Tony Elias, who we see in Superbike, kind of run straight to the apex. JD feels really comfortable. Greg, this is a track you don't do a lot of trail braking at because of the surface. The surface is really bumpy, and that last turn into turn 11, if you watch JD how long he keeps the bike upright, he doesn't get to a certain point, tip it in, and trail brake in there. He kind of gets the bike backed in, but still has the big part of the tire, the front tire, on the ground so that he can kind of trail in, and then he's not worried about letting the bike run wide on his exit. These guys all go to first gear for that last corner, so he's not afraid to let that bike just kind of get in there and run wide on his exit. Good slow motion stuff from our cameras out there. This is turn 3 to 3A. You can see what JD Beach is running, that extra soft front and that extra soft rear Dunlop. And right now they're about 1.2, 1.6 away.
JD Beach just set the fastest first split of the race, by the way, so it's that moment halfway through this race where JD's trying to put his head down, and you can see the attitude right now as he grabs a handful of throttle, the rear end of the motorcycle spinning up. So JD Beach is trying to put it down to Valentin DeBees and get himself a bit of a margin.
22.5 that first split, Greg.
Unreal.
So, yeah, that's really fast this late in the race. I mean, we've got sort of 7 laps to go. They've broken Hayden a bit here now. Hayden's 1.6 back the last lap. It's probably going to have grown this lap as well. And DeBees is doing everything he can. You can see the 2 different lines again going in here. Valentin's bike right at the end of his braking, you can definitely see that he's got a little bit of chatter in the front, but his exit's a lot better, but he loses a lot on the entry going into that last turn. And it's really interesting to watch two riders at this level doing two completely different things. See how much wider Valentin goes up into turn 2, just in the back of your camera there. He runs 1 gear up there. He runs 3rd gear through turn, all this section. This is all going to be 3rd for him all the way across the top. And he tries to keep up his entry speed a lot by opening up turn 2.
Yeah, I just saw him grab a gear down into 2nd.
Yep, down into turn 4 here.
Yeah, down into turn 4. Now for JD Beach, one thing he knows is that, as Bryce Prince, by the way, got around Richie Escalante on our scoring screen, so those two having a battle, but one thing JD understands about Valentin de Bees is that if Valentin's close enough, he's got to make a move. There's no question about it. Valentin is not scared. He likes to, if he can hang on to him, he's going to take a shot at the end. And you can see Hayden Gillum just losing another 3 or 4 tenths.
And now look what we got. Bryce Prince has been able to catch Escalante and get up to the back of him and pass him that last couple laps that we've been watching. 38.7, 38.7 for both these guys last lap through.
So number 74, Bryce Prince, former national champion here in MotoAmerica. Out of Bakersfield, California. Let's Ride Track Day, Lucas Oil KWR sponsored machine.
Won our 600 Superstock Championship a couple years ago, ran 1,000 Superstock a little bit last year, was left without anything really to do this year, and was lucky enough to get picked up with Kyle Wyman and their team, and he's been able to put a program together inside that tent. They've worked well together, and right now, really, he's having the best weekend he's had of his season so far.
Yeah, the number 74, Bryce Prince, sits 7th in the points after yesterday. Only 2 points, by the way, Jason, behind Richie Escalante. So if Bryce, let's see, they are in 4th and 5th spot, and the difference is 2 points. So if it stays like this for these two riders, they would tie in points for the season so far. But Richie Escalante, as I mentioned before, has 1 podium finish so far this season. Bryce Prince, none. Yes. But he's had his last 2 appearances, he's had 2 4th-place finishes as Bryce Prince. So his season, if you look at the stats from race 1 to race number 10, this is the 11th of the season, and he just keeps building and building and building on the season. And if he can find himself up with these front 3 by the end of the year, it's going to be fireworks for 2019.
Yeah, no question. And every lap that these guys turn, right now they're about 11 seconds back. So they're not quite losing a second a lap to those guys up in the front. So we've seen it this year with some of that battle for 4th. They've been losing a second plus. And it's good to see those guys staying a little bit more in contact.
Looks like some lap traffic possibly getting around there.
Yep, they're starting to get into these guys.
Yep.
And yesterday we saw them being able to move out of the way quite well.
That was Luke Luciano of Seattle, Washington, Zone 9 Racing. Yamaha gets out of the way. Back up front we go to JD Beach. The gap has been 0.4 of a second for the last couple of laps.
Somebody went off.
Yeah, it looks like lap traffic maybe getting out of the way.
Yep.
So we're 6 laps to go in this one. This battle for 4th place continues to rage as JD might think he has this in control. But Valentin de Bees is smart enough to understand that if he can keep it at 0.4 of a second, that with probably 2 or 3 laps to go, he'll dig deep and try to make his move. As for Richie Escalante, what we see here at Sonoma Raceway, it's that accordion effect. Some places he's stronger than Bryce, other places he'll lose some time. So Escalante.
And traffic can play a big thing here. We don't see a lot of traffic much throughout our year, and but right now there's definitely some guys that can definitely influence it. And I know, there you go, right there. That's down through the middle of the carousel. That's a big move for Bryce. Just kind of
move Fernando out of the way
Fernando a little bit.
Silva.
Yeah, we saw him in the pits earlier, so they obviously got him fixed and got him going again. You see Jason Aguilar just off in the distance there in the background.
Yeah, it looks like Escalante got into that corner a little bit warm, but just different lines for the 2 riders. Here's where Bryce Prince looks to be a little stronger than Escalante. Last time we saw him come through this section, but Escalante tidies it up a lot better and a lot closer. Is Richie going to try to get this move back?
He's trying. He's going to get up underneath him, Greg. Can he get it slowed down? He's going to get it stopped and slowed, and you can see he just kind of loaded his legs before he went over that inside curb. He Might be a big hole over there that we can't see on our TV screens, but he knew about it. You could see him kind of adjust himself. Now they're coming up on a couple more guys. This is a horrible spot to come up on traffic. Bryce gets in there a little bit deep.
Oh, yeah.
Now you're coming down into this turn 1 area, and it's a horrible place to draw up on the back of somebody. This might help Bryce because you can see he messed up a little bit that last corner. These guys going up to turn 2, we'll see what happens.
Up front, the lead's been extended to 0.7 of a second. JD Beach over Valentin DeBees. 3 seconds back from DeBees is Gillum. Weaving and bobbing through lap traffic. This could be Escalante's big move.
Yeah, see, this is when you catch guys up in this little section here, it's really hard to do anything. And Bryce, Greg's a big move.
Yeah.
Oh, he made it, though. That could have gone so bad right there, but he was able to make that pass.
And you got to do that. There are waving blue flags, but this lap traffic still has their own race going on. Now you know what it's like when the freight train of Escalante's coming through on you. Back up front to JD Beach with about 4.5 laps remaining. Is that it for Valentin DeBees?
Wow, yeah, look at that 22.4, that first split was amazing, 33.2. The second splits were all kind of the same there, Greg, but that first split, JD just killed it.
This is what JD can do if he knows, if he can smell a little bit of weakness in you, he's going for it. You can see Valentin DeBees sending the motorcycle sideways. That M4 X-Star Suzuki GSX-R 600. He's trying everything he can to stay with JD Beach.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, though, now. He's got that second lead. 4 to go for these guys. Gillum is some 4 seconds back now himself, but the lap times have really dropped.
So it's Beach, DeBees, Gillum, Escalante, and Bryce Prince still fighting it up. Aguilar in 6th, Ort in 7th. Here's another look at it, Jay.
Yep, and you can see just gets in there in that last corner, Greg, and you can see the chatter. You can see the chatter from the front of the bike, and that's really making it hard for him to get the thing turned. You know, I say that. He's still getting the bike turned. He's just got some chatter, but you can see JD's line's a lot further out on the exit of the track, but it doesn't really hurt him. Here you go down through the carousel. We can't even see DeBees behind him now. So as they head down now, look at the gap that DeBees has on him as they head down into turn 7. Or I'm sorry, that JD has on DeBees, well over a second now. So
JD Beach in control of this one at the moment, 1.1. You can see that margin. DeBees will fight to the end, but he also is smart enough to know that if he doesn't have the motorcycle to win the race, he's going to collect those points. Came back out of injury from earlier on in the season, and Corey Westfield in for him on the M4 X-Star Suzuki, and he just won straight away, and we thought, wow, this is really going to turn the season around. But since then, nothing but second place finishes for the Frenchman.
yeah, it says it's 1.2 now. 37.8 to 38.0, so it's just 0.2. It just looks a lot bigger than that as they go around. Gillum going up the hill here, just kind of solo by himself, doing 38.7. Behind Escalante is definitely, he's got by Bryce, but they're still kind of together. Gillum's going to see now that, I don't even think he can see those guys out in front of him anymore, Greg.
Yeah, so I think the changes that were made to this motorcycle didn't quite pay off. Because the pace they're running, very similar to yesterday.
Yeah. The thing is that JD's still capable of getting himself into those 37s. That's the biggest thing. He's capable of still being able to run that minute 37 mark.
37.5, the fastest for JD Beach, and he just did a 37.8 with 3 laps to go.
Yep. That's what I mean. That's a big difference for him.
Shows you, Jason, here at Sonoma Raceway how important getting all these lines right. I mean, what we're looking at right now with Escalante and Prince is we're still looking at the effects of Bryce Prince's mistake into turn number 11 a couple laps ago.
But Bryce is kind of he's chipping away still. Like, he's not letting go. He's still kind of there. You know, like in other words, there was that pretty big gap. And now he's going to come up into traffic again as Escalante down through here. This is only going to help Bryce as well, because Escalante's going to get held up right there, and Bryce is going to pull right up on the back now as they head down into turn 9. He's going to be right up on the back of him. Riders Law,
Robert Pierce, the 31. They get around him. as Beach has already come across the line. 1.5 seconds the margin from first to second.
37.7 again. So he's just knocking out those laps, Greg, over and over and over, just knocking them out.
It's hard to defend against that, especially with, 2 laps to go in this race. So Escalante comes across at a 39.1. Prince was able to make up a 1/10 of a second on him. I'm not sure. Bryce, this guy's got to close up probably 4 or 5 bike lengths and put himself in a position that he's going to be able to strike. It's on the brakes where Prince can try to fight Escalante. Escalante's motorcycle looks pretty loose as they come into the chicane area under braking. Here comes JD. Nice tight tuck. Making the most out of pushing his own air.
They got Zaragoza and Caroline Olsen just right up in front of them, who are locked in a battle themselves. So now it's going to be the 2 leaders are coming up on a couple people that are also in fighting for a position.
Little sideways move as JD throws it through the S's. So those 2 in front of them are racing, but they do have a blue flag, and there is a rule here in MotoAmerica. You can't take an advantage under a blue flag. So you can feel comfortable if you're the racer in front to move over and let the leaders go by without being attacked by the racer you're fighting with. So JD goes underneath right now. Carolyn sees him, gives him some room. Oh, that was pretty close. That's just JD's line that he's taken. So JD might have lost the 10th. Yeah, 38.2 after he's clicking off 37s.
That's correct, yep.
So he might have lost a couple tenths on that one, but Valentin DeBe's only able to answer with a 38.3 anyway.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's just going to be because there's a little bit of traffic there with them. And but this guy's got everything under control, Greg. He plans these races and just rides masterfully, does JD. And now he's on this last lap. He came by, probably saw 1.5 on his board. He knows he's just got to get his head down. You can see this is coming out of the last corner. This is Zaragoza and him. And he's kind of out there where JD likes to be, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he might have been trying to just move out of the way, but JD runs a very standard kind of wide line on the exit of that area.
Final lap of this one, JD Beach in total control. There's Valentin DeBe's in the background. So for the Monster Energy Yamaha Extended Services Graves Yamaha rider, JD Beach, if he can keep it on 2 wheels to finish up this lap, it's going to be his 9th win of the season and his 6th win in a row, and would extend his points lead even further. And JD doesn't look like he's slowing down at all. He knows that Valentin's close enough where if he makes a mistake, he's going to attack him. JD Beach holding on to his rhythm, holding on to his pace. As he's going to head towards final turn number 11. Beach on the binders. Gets it down to the apex. Nice wide turn. Gets it on the meat of the tire. And here comes JD Beach, the number 95, will take the race win. Race number 2 of Supersport here at Sonoma Raceway. And 2.1 seconds behind will be Valentin DeBe's. And to the line comes Hayden Gillum, who will take another podium finish this year.
Yeah, and that's, I know it's frustrating for him. They'll just keep chipping away, but right now JD's just got all these guys kind of covered. DeBe's puts up a great fight. As you see, Escalante and Prince come across the line 4th and 5th. And Escalante runs a little wide into the dirt. Good battle for those guys. Jason Aguilar, I think that's Jason's best result of the year in 6th place.
Yeah, good rebound for Jay.
Yeah, really good rebound. A little bit better weekend for him for sure. Looks like 7th place is going to be Braden Ort as he comes across. There's JD. All the Yamaha guys got to be really happy with everything they're seeing. And this guy's just really putting himself in the shop window for a Superbike seat.
So for Jason Aguilar, that equals his best finish of the year. He had a 6th place finish back at Virginia, VIR race number 1 back in the day. So good for Jason for matching his best finish after finishing 8th yesterday. So checker flag flies on this one. We have Beach, DeBe's, Gillum. Escalante was able to hold off Bryce Prince. Aguilar, then Braden Ort with that foot. I know that he's going to head back to Canada where he's going to have that foot looked at.
Oh, is that what he's headed to do?
Yeah, I mean, you better go to Canada and get free medical, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, go broke here. Michael Gilbert in 8th, Nick McFadden in 9th, Ashton Yates. We can talk about Ashton in this one. You join us on Bein Sports Connect. You saw Ashton Yates racing up in the Wally Junior Cup, presented by Riders Law Race. Miles Thornton in 11th, Wyatt Ferris in 12th, JC Camacho, Daytona Anderson, Lucas Silva. Caroline Olsen just out of the points with Edgar Zaragoza, Robert Pierce, Jared Desaney, and Andrew Artola, your top 20 in this one. Results scrolling on the bottom of your screen.
So what's that going to take his points lead up to now, G-Dub?
It's
got to be up in the 90s.
Math. So we do 9. I think that's 100, Jay.
100 points.
It's going to be 100 points. We're going to let you know here next segment because we are going to head to a commercial break. On the other side, we'll have more results. We'll talk to the top 3. We're going to give you points. And, of course, Motul Superbike is coming up, too. So hang tight. All right, we're back at Sonoma Raceway, the Cycle Gear Championship of Sonoma, where Supersport race number 2 is all wrapped up. So let's head right down to Hannah.
I've got our third place finisher, Hayden Gillum. Hayden, really strong start for you, but slowly started to kind of lose the front 2 guys. What was going on out there?
Yeah, you know, they picked the pace up a bunch, and I had a really good bike at the beginning. It was working really well, and we made a few adjustments to the rear of the bike this morning, and it just didn't pay off. It was moving around a lot there at the end of the race, and I just right in the middle of the corner and on the exits, I just didn't have what it took to stay with those guys. They were really strong all race, and I tried to keep going as fast as I could, but I was just making little mistakes here and there that were forcing me to back off just a little bit. And yeah, it's a bummer after yesterday's race, being able to actually get up there and dice it up with these boys, just kind of sitting behind them today and watching them. It helped me at the beginning. You know, I was able to learn a few things, but at the end, I didn't have anything for them. The guys worked their butts off this weekend to give me a great bike, and unfortunately, I couldn't do it for them. So, thanks a lot.
Thanks, Hayden. Congratulations.
And he had the fastest lap of the race, Greg, like you said during our telecast, 37.4. It's just that sustainability and figuring out how they can make that bike work for Hayden the whole way through the race and get him comfortable that way.
And you know what I've heard, Jason, is it's a 2-year deal for Hayden Gillum, and really this season is a bunch of data gathering. So the team continues to learn and develop this motorcycle in little bits and pieces, and so, you know, it's Hayden Gillum, he won, and he expects to win every time.
That's right. I mean, all these guys do. All these top 3 guys want to win, so unfortunately there can only be one of them.
All right, let's go down to Hannah, who has our second place finisher, Valentin DeBees.
Okay, Valentin, you did a really good job of staying with JD during this race. You started to lose him a little bit toward the end. Tell us about your battle.
Yeah, you know, it's like nothing I can say. When you see the lap times, the whole race, it was really, really fast, and we have to double check, but I think we will be, with that lap time, we will be close from Superbike podium. So, so you know, even if the battle wasn't crazy today, the pace was so fast that for me it was really entertaining, and I was pushing really hard the whole time, trying to don't make mistake. I almost crashed in the last corner after 6 laps, and you know, after this save, I was like, okay, you need to maybe calm down, because I was feeling maybe much better than what I was able to do. So I calmed myself and then put my head down, put some good lap time, and finish close from the win. So it's again a good improvement. Thank you to my M4 Suzuki X-Star team. As always, great job, and it's always a big pleasure to work with them. And I cannot wait to race again in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Valentin. Congratulations.
And he brings up a great point, Greg. I'm gonna pay attention today, sort of 10, 12, 15 laps into the Superbike race, and see where mid 37s to high 37s.
Well, I can tell you from
yesterday's
race, the best time, a 37.5 would have put him best time-wise in about 8th place in Superbike.
Unreal. And these guys, lap after lap, I mean, even only towards the end, Valentin just dropped into the low 38s, and JD kept on doing those 37s.
And JD is with Hannah right now.
JD, 6 in a row for you. You led that race from start to finish. You even started to pull away there a little bit at the end, really put your head down. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, that was a hard race. I mean, like almost every lap it was plus zero. I mean, I could hear Hayden and the Beast right on me, and then I was seeing we started getting just a little bit of a gap to Hayden, and I mean, but the Beast was right there, and I mean, we just kept hugging along in my Monster Energy Yamaha extended service grades. Yamaha was working great, and I mean, we definitely did our homework last night, and I mean, I felt like my pace was really good for the race, and considering that this is one of my worst tracks last year, I mean, I feel really good about it, and really looking forward to Pittsburgh. And I mean, I just got to end this with dedicating this race to my buddy Brad Baker. I mean, he was injured a few weeks ago, and I mean, we're really close friends, and I mean, he's so strong, he's pulling through it, but that win was for him.
Thanks, JD. Congratulations.
All right, so Brad the Bullet, who was injured, follow him on social media and check it out. Good for JD.
All of us are thinking about Brad.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, you know, it's
big fan. These guys
great
awesome.
to see JD do that. And if you follow Brad Baker's Instagram, it's inspirational. That guy he's already on it, and he's working hard to keep getting better. And good on JD for that.
In the record books, JD Beach will have an official win, 2.1 seconds over Valentin DeBees and Hayden Gillum. We're going to take a commercial break. On the other side, more coming at you from Sonoma Raceway. Hang tight. So we're back here at Sonoma Raceway, and podium celebrations getting underway as Supersport Race 2 is in the books. Here's a look at those championship standings. Like I told you, Jay, 100 points difference between JD Beach and Hayden Gillum. And with the amount of races we have left in the season, there's only 150 points available. Valentin DeBees 140 back. Nick McFadden in 4th place. Richie Escalante in 5th spot. Corey West, unfortunately for Corey, who's had a couple of 3 podium finishes so far this season, he sits there in 6th place. He was in 4th at the beginning, so Nick McFadden will move up one. Richie Escalante moves up one. Bryce Prince remains in 7th spot. Braden Ort holding on to 8th, 169 back, and Anthony Mazziato, who wasn't able to race this one. Let's take a look at the moment of the race and this one. And then obviously I think really it's the start. I mean, it was this move right here where JD Beach was able to sweep around the outside of Valentin DeBees and shoot his way up into turn number 2 and was able to hold that all the way to the checkered flag. What a masterful performance, and like Valentin DeBees said in his post-race press conference, 137.5s. Incredibly fast. 137.44 credited to Hayden Gillum as the fastest lap of the race. All right, we'll take a break. On the other side, more coming at you as Motool's Superbike is coming up. Can Cameron Beaubier do it again, or does the field have the answer? Hang tight.